Good Tuesday afternoon to all of you in America. I'm Vanessa Broussard. Welcome to the Spin Room. Investors are keeping a close eye on the stock market. A scary few days, but President Trump is warning us all not to panic. It's been a much better day today on Wall Street. We have seen lots of green just now, right before we came on, dipping back down into the red, but that's okay. It's looking a lot better than it has been over the last couple of days. The Dow, S&P 500, NASDAQ all down. Taking a look at Market Watch right now. Here are the latest numbers. More countries are coming forward, agreeing to President Trump's fair trade deals. 60 countries at last count. That's helping shift the market and also even the playing field. So America is not used anymore by other countries. That's been going on, as you know, for far too long. President Trump putting this out on Truth Social, saying this: I just had a great call with the acting president of South Korea. We talked about their tremendous and unsustainable surplus, tariffs, shipbuilding, large-scale purchase of U.S. LNG, their joint venture in an Alaska pipeline, and payment for the big-time military protection we provide to South Korea. They began these military payments during my first term, billions of dollars. But sleepy Joe Biden, he says, for reasons unknown, terminated the deal. That was a shocker to all. In any event, he says, we have the confines and probability of a great deal for both countries. Their top team is on a plane heading to the U.S. and things are looking good. We are likewise dealing with many other countries, all of whom want to make a deal with the United States. Like with South Korea, we are bringing up other subjects that are not covered by trade and tariffs and getting them negotiated also. One-stop shopping. It's a beautiful and efficient process. China also wants to make a deal badly, but they don't know how to get it started. We are waiting for their call. It will happen. God bless the USA, says President Trump. Now, when it comes to China, they are fighting back as expected. They got their way under Biden, put President Trump in, and he's putting his foot down. Take a listen.
The America First Trade Policy Memorandum rightly tasked the USTR to review China's compliance with the Phase 1 agreement. Under the agreement, China is obligated to purchase more U.S. goods and change basic practices and laws, the so-called structural commitments. The prior administration refused to discuss whether China complied with its structural commitments. And by the way, these were commitments made in response to tariffs in President Trump's first presidency, correct?
That's right.
What is your analysis of China's compliance with the structural commitments that it made in Phase 1 so far?
Our assessment, Chairman, is that in the initial stages of implementing the agreement, China made significant movement to make these structural changes, whether it was with respect to agricultural rules, financial services, or IP. We found during the Biden administration there was little enforcement and little communication, and that the Chinese did not comply with this agreement in large part. I've had a call with my counterpart. I've communicated to him our feeling on this, that they have not complied with the agreement, and I think we're disappointed by this.
Trump is he's imposing 104% tariffs on China effective tonight. With more on this, let's go straight to White House correspondent Allison Steinberg live in Washington, D.C. Allison, we're still talking tariffs and countries are starting to come in and agree with President Trump and make a deal, but we're waiting on China.
Yes, we sure are still waiting on China. I guess it's not all too shocking that they are dragging their feet here, but President Trump did give them the opportunity to negotiate, and it doesn't seem like they've reached that point in time yet. So I guess we will stay tuned to see what happens there. As you mentioned, as of midnight tonight, the 104% tariff does go into effect. So it was made clear at the press briefing today that President Trump's phone is just a call away. He's open and available and ready to speak with all countries regarding negotiations, and that he is more than happy to provide a tailor-made, individual, customized, solutions for each country. So it's really in China's best interest to contact President Trump. But I guess we'll see what happens here. Perhaps they're making us wait it out, and something will come later today, but we shall see.
Absolutely. So we're holding off on that. Again, at midnight tonight, that's when that tariff goes into effect. The White House press briefing just wrapped up with Karoline Leavitt. What did you take away from that when it comes to the tariffs?
Well, the tariffs were obviously a hot topic of discussion, as they have been ever since Liberation Day here at the White House. Karoline Leavitt outlined that actually 70 countries now have made it known that they are willing to negotiate with President Trump. So this is a really good sign. This is how the tariffs are meant to work. Of course, it's not going to happen overnight. We're not going to see, great results just, in the blink of an eye. It's going to take some time, but she reassured us that, this is happening slowly but surely. It's 70 countries at this point in time that are willing to negotiate, and hopefully many more follow, but this is ultimately how it should work. And we're seeing multiple countries, Israel included, as we saw from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, come to the White House yesterday and said he's willing to drop the tariffs for the U.S. So again, hopefully other countries follow in the footsteps. We heard from Press Secretary Leavitt today, interestingly enough, regarding the tariffs. She pointed out that Nancy Pelosi, shockingly, actually aligns with President Trump, or at least aligned past tense back in the day on what we're seeing actually play out right now. Of course, it would be shocking to hear her say this in present terms today, but I actually have a clip, I think, of Karoline Leavitt outlining what Nancy Pelosi used to think on the issue. Let's take a listen to that.
I do just want to point out one thing, that the president, everybody in Washington, whether they want to admit it or not, knows that this president is right when it comes to tariffs and when it comes to trade. In fact, Democrats have long said that the United States of America has been ripped off by the countries around the world. They just don't want to admit it now because it's President Trump who is saying that. In June of 1996, Nancy Pelosi spoke on the House floor. She urged her colleagues at the time to fight against the status quo trade policies that had contributed to America's trade deficit with China. In fact, Nancy Pelosi said, how far does China have to go? How much more repression? How big a trade deficit? How many jobs have to be lost for the American workers? How much dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, I will not endorse the status quo? Those are the words of Nancy Pelosi in 1996. Well, President Trump is finally answering her call 27 years later. Nancy Pelosi can thank President Trump today for the 104% retaliatory tariff that will be going into effect on China. In 2007, Chuck Schumer spoke of our nation's crippling trade deficit, saying these are the kinds of records the American people don't want us to be breaking. The administration needs to move beyond words, take action now to reverse a trend that threatens our prospects for future economic growth. And Chuck Schumer said that in 2007. Finally, in 2025, President Trump is taking action. Recently defeated Democrat Sherrod Brown said on deficits in 2012 that our deficit then at China had reached an all-time high, and it was on pace to recede last year's record. The trade deficit had cost American workers millions of jobs at the time. These are the words of Democrats years ago. It is about time America finally has a president who is taking action to restore those millions of jobs back to the United States of America, to boost our manufacturing industry. He's doing what's right for the American people. It will take a lot of labor. It will take a lot of effort. That's exactly what the American people elected this president to do.
Pretty incredible to hear that from Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt. I mean, it's amazing to know, and she's right, because we have the clip of Nancy Pelosi that we'll play momentarily here, but amazing to know that these Democrats who, basically just do the opposite of whatever President Trump says is good now, they're just in complete opposition to anything that he stands for, anything that is actually good and beneficial for the American people. They just sway on the other end of. They side, on the progressive, radical, socialist end of things when it wasn't even that long ago. They are, saying the same things that President Trump is standing for and finally putting his foot down for us now in America. So it really is incredible to see the flip-flopping here. And on that note, let's take a listen to Nancy Pelosi back in the 90s talking about China tariffs.
How far does China have to go? How much more repression? How big a trade deficit and loss of jobs for the American worker? And how much more dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, I will not endorse the status quo? As I mentioned, it's about jobs, proliferation, and human rights. And there are those who say we shouldn't link human rights and trade and proliferation and trade. I disagree. But if we just want to take up this issue on the basis of economics alone, indeed, China should not receive most favored nation status for several reasons that I'd like to go into now. I'd like to call the attention of our colleagues to this chart on the status quo that the business community is asking each and every one of us to endorse today. Right now, we have a $34 billion trade deficit with China, the 1995 figure. It will be over $40 billion for 1996. Since the Tiananmen Square massacre, this figure has increased 1,000%, from $3.5 billion then to about $34 billion now. In terms of tariffs, I think it's interesting to note that the average U.S. MFN tariff on Chinese goods coming into the United States is 2%, whereas the average Chinese MFN tariff on U.S. goods going into China is 35%. Is that reciprocal?
Really is just amazing to see that there. You almost wouldn't believe it unless you saw the video evidence, but I'm glad the internet did a great job at, making that resurface so that we could all witness that for ourselves. There you have it. I mean, Nancy Pelosi just says it straightforward, what needs to be done. She highlights how this is unfair and how this really totally just rips off the American people. And now we have a president in office who's willing to address this and do the hard work that's necessary to try to bring America back to a prosperous state. And of course, the Democrats now have a problem with it. So I guess, it's just par for the course at this point. But I'm glad to know that we do have a president in office who's willing to actually fight for the American people, even American people, meaning Nancy Pelosi. So maybe she should take a listen to her old footage there.
Absolutely. It's good to see that we were able to show that, because you did have the press secretary mentioning it today. And then, of course, the fake news is going to want to say, oh, no, it's not true. But we have proof. The proof is in the pudding. She said it. She's absolutely right. Years ago, it's not fair. We were being, charged 30-something%, over 30%, whereas they were only being charged 2%. Not reciprocal. She asked the question. She's exactly right. Makes you wonder why her stance has changed since Trump has taken office. Allison, just in from Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, I want to read this regarding China. He says, I believe that China will be forced very soon to come to the table for the simple reason that China's economy is completely dependent on its exports to the United States and to the West. China is now discovering for the first time that they have met an American president who is not going to be intimidated, who's not going to be bullied, who's not going to be coerced, who's going to stand up for our essential security needs. So he's absolutely correct when it comes to what President Trump said. We showed his Truth Social post just moments ago when he says China does want to talk. They just don't know how. This is the first time they've ever, come in contact with a president such as President Trump, who's going to put his foot down, who's going to say this is the way it's going to be. It's only fair for everyone. You need us. And, at some point, you're going to have to come to the table. Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller reiterating that. So I'm hoping China will come to the table soon. Like you mentioned, Allison, his phone line is open, waiting for that phone call.
That's right. And, while I understand China was used to a geriatric old fool in office who they could, manipulate, who I'm sure was benefiting from them, the tables have certainly turned, and they should know better that President Trump isn't going to put up with what they are laying down, and he's going to hold the ground, hold the line here for America, really finally putting us first for once in a very long time. So I guess they should have known that, but everyone's got to learn the hard way at some point, I suppose. So I'm glad to hear that they are coming to terms with this. And again, hopefully some sort of deal can be reached sooner rather than later.
And real quick, Allison, before I let you go, he mentioned yesterday, don't panic. The markets went into a frenzy. People started panicking because they had never really seen or experienced a worldwide global tariff imposed like President Trump imposed. But to be honest with you, he was very fair. You were the first to get the list of how much he was putting on the countries when it comes to tariffs there in the White House press briefing room. He was very fair, in my opinion. But people still panicked. Market Watch, I'm still looking at the numbers right now, the Wall Street area panicking. He says, don't be a panicking. What do you think about that when he came up with that new party yesterday, the Panicking Party?
I love it. I think it's very fitting. It really highlights Trump's humor in all of this, which is good. I think it's necessary. Yeah, of course, it was expected that the stock markets were going to go a little haywire, and there's a lot of unknown at this point in time. There's a little bit of uncertainty, but again, that's to be expected. I think we need to remember that this is all about short-term pain, long-term gain, and the president is confident that it's going to work out. I mean, we're actually seeing this play out right now. For our benefit, 70 countries are now willing to negotiate. So I think this trend will continue. I don't think that the president would have enacted this if he didn't feel confident that it would work out. And I think we all just have to be patient and, and calm throughout this bit of turbulence that we're experiencing. But I think everyone should remain positive and don't panic. Just
don't be a panicking. Whatever you do, just stay calm.
Right.
This is, we're working with America's top businessman right now. I think he knows what he's doing. Allison, thank you so much for joining us. Yes.
Thanks so much, Professor. Take care.
Well, it was a big win when it comes to deporting illegal aliens. The Supreme Court has ruled that President Trump can enforce the Alien Enemies Act. That's for rapid deportations of gang members. Here's the backstory. A U.S. District Judge, Judge James Boasberg, he wanted to temporarily block and stop planes from carrying illegal aliens out of the country. Remember that? The plane was actually en route to the home country of these illegal aliens, these gang members, and he wanted President Trump and the administration to stop the plane and turn it around and bring them back to our homeland. Well, the president fought back and the Supreme Court held an emergency vote. All three liberal Supreme Court justices, the judges, they voted to dismiss, and so did conservative judge Justice Amy Coney Barrett. What a shame. Justice Barrett sided with illegal gang members, illegal aliens over American people. Well, at any rate, it passed, and it's a huge victory for illegal immigration. Here's Caroline Levitt.
Last night, the Supreme Court delivered a massive legal victory to the Trump administration and allowed us to continue removing foreign terrorist invaders under the Alien Enemies Act. This was a smackdown to a rogue left-wing, low-level district court judge who have relentlessly tried to stop President Trump from using his core constitutional powers as head of the executive branch and as commander-in-chief. The highest court in the land made it clear that the President of the United States has the power to protect our homeland and forcibly remove foreign terrorists who pose a grave threat to families and communities. Thank you to the Supreme Court for upholding the rule of law and protecting the Constitution. Our message to the monster Tren de Aragua and MS-13 terrorists still hiding illegally inside our country is clear. Deport yourself now, or you will be locked up and sent back to your home country.
There you have it. We've been warning them since President Trump took office on January 20th. Turn yourself in or you're going to be deported. Kristi Noem was actually posting on social media earlier. She was in Arizona rounding up those gang members. with our brave men and women on the front lines. President Trump posted this on Truth Social. The Supreme Court has upheld the rule of law in our nation by allowing a president, whoever that may be, to be able to secure our borders and protect our families and our country itself. A great day for justice in America, he says. And at this hour, President Trump continues on. Today, he's focused on energy. Right now, he's signing an executive order to unleash American energy. Coal continues to be a major source of power for our nation. We have it here in our homeland. It's available and it's affordable. Take a look.
This is Wyoming coal. We need more of it, not less of it, to power our nation. Available, affordable, reliable, continues to be a major source of power for our nation, and we need it far into the future. And today, President Trump is going to sign an executive order making clear his commitment to American energy independence. The president is moving very quickly in terms of boosting the coal industry. It's part of this bold plan that the administration has to restore America energy dominance. We have more coal in this country than any other country in the world. It's one of our most affordable, reliable, and abundant sources of energy on the planet. And in America, we can use that coal cleaner than ever before.
Again, that signing is taking place right now inside the White House. And by signing the executive order, President Trump yet proves America once again dominates in many sectors, including energy. He's had a busy day. To start his day, a new magnolia tree has been planted at the White House, and President Trump took part in that historic ceremony this morning. He rolled up his sleeves and he got to work. The White House safely replaced the Jackson magnolia with a descendant sapling. There's video right now of President Trump. The original tree was removed from the White House due to serious safety concerns that arose. A new sapling, which is a descendant of the Jackson magnolia, was planted this morning. Remnants of the old tree will be preserved and honored for generations to come. That's per the White House. The new sapling is 12 years old and was grown at the off-site National Park Service greenhouse in preparation to now live at the White House. And these are official photos from the White House. The original tree was considered one of the oldest trees at the White House and dates back to Andrew Jackson, but its condition declined beyond recovery. So today, a new day at the White House when it comes to its greenery, looking beautiful there. Now is a good time as ever to invest in gold and silver. We talk about it daily. We've talked about the market. We've talked about the economy over the last 4 years with President Biden. A lot of you, a lot of us, family, friends have had to depend on our savings, had to dip into our savings to try to survive off everyday essentials. And so now is a time where you can get back on track with gold and silver. So that's why you'll always hear us recommend our friends over at Fisher Gold. You know, the national debt is skyrocketed over the last couple of years as well under Joe Biden. $36 trillion in debt. Inflation was high over the last 4 years. Again, eating away at your savings, but protecting yourself with gold and silver could help you. So that's why we definitely recommend for you to go to MikeLindellGold.com. That's MikeLindellGold.com. Secure your wealth today. Representatives are waiting to hear from you. They're always a phone call away. They're right there, even if you log online, and they will be contacting you. They're a conservative company. They have our values. They want to help you. So you can definitely trust them. Endorsed by Mike Lindell. Again, that website is MikeLindellGold.com. As a reminder, I'll say it every day, for qualifying orders, you could get a free coin and $20,000 in free silver. Can't go wrong there. So that's why we are always telling you about it, because we want you to be a qualifying order where you could get that free coin and $20,000 in free silver. Let them know that Mike Lindell sent you. And also, as a reminder, check out MyPillow.com. So many great products there. The spring mega sale is going on right now. Look, I did some Easter shopping for my son a couple of days ago, and I also did the big kids in my family as well because they still get Easter baskets, so you can get pillows. One of my nephews is going off to college. Perfect time to get bed sheets and mattress toppers and all the things for your kids who may be going off to school. Easter bunny's coming. Never too big for an Easter basket for the kids who are teenagers now, but they'll always be kids in our hearts. So this is the time to enjoy the spring sale. Also, while you're there, I want to remind you, if you scroll to the mid part of the page, there's a link where you can go to mystore.com. That link, there you have it, mystore.com. There's so many conservative companies with conservative products that Mike Lindell, he makes sure he goes through these companies. Not everybody can get on mystore.com, but he goes through a strict process. He loves the companies, he endorses these companies, and he wants to make sure that they get the help they need to. So happy shopping, all in one spot, mypillow.com. And we have a big show coming up in half an hour on the Mike Lindell Show. We will have Lee Greenwood joining us. So excited about this interview coming up. He's going to talk about his efforts, a push to put Bibles in Oklahoma schools, and also family, faith, and freedom during the Easter season. Those topics and so much more with Lee Greenwood coming up in just a half an hour on the Mike Lindell Show. So stick around here on Lindell TV for that. And thanks for joining us today on the Spin Room. I'm Vanessa Broussard, and we'll see you right back here at the top of the hour for the Mike Lindell Show.